So, as stated in my email, this video is going to focus on writing a thesis statement after you have started the research process. So, we've already talked about choosing a topic, and now I want to talk about developing a thesis based off of that topic. What you need to remember is that when you're doing your research, any time spent defining your research topic and thesis statement is time saved. And in order to locate pertinent sources, you must clearly understand the questions you are trying to answer, what you are looking for, and how your topic fits into other areas of knowledge and research. Whenever you chose your topics, I made you state them as questions or a question that you are trying to answer. Meaning, what is the main idea? You can also, though, look at it in different ways and say, what's the main idea of my paper? What specific ideas am I trying to describe and prove? What specific aspect of that topic do I wish to consider? Because you cannot cover everything about a very broad subject, and you shouldn't, unless you're writing your, I don't know, trying to get your doctorate, okay? That's not what this paper is asking you to do. This is a understanding the research process and trying to narrow down your information and your research. So you can ask yourself additional questions like, what's the main idea of my paper? What specific idea am I trying to describe or prove? What specific aspect of that topic do I want to consider? And whenever you're asking yourself these questions and gathering sources and evidence, the questions may change, and your thesis will and should evolve, requiring different kinds of searches and different sources, which is why some of y'all have told me, hey, don't look at this particular source right now, it's not ready, I think I've changed my mind on that source, and that's fine. You should be doing those kinds of things. I'm not saying that if you've changed your mind about us, that if you haven't changed your mind about a source, you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying that if you find yourself in the research process changing things, that's fine and that's expected. Alright, so let's look at an example. This has all kinds of fun animations. Alright, so let's say that you had started off your research with what is alcohol abuse, which I would have shot down and said that's too general, because you could look at alcohol abuse on different kinds of people. What are the effects of alcohol abuse? Again, too general. What are the effects of alcohol abuse on young people? Again, too general, because you could tell me, are we going for anybody under the age of 21? And in that case, it could go from ages 0 to 21, which there's going to be a vast difference between what happens to someone who's 18 versus what happens to someone who's in utero. So you could narrow it down to, what are the effects of alcohol on a fetus? And if you've narrowed it down and become more specific with your topic, then essentially with this example, you've narrowed it down to alcohol abuse to fetal alcohol syndrome, which is, again, a good way to not waste your time in the research process. Alright, can I click to the next slide? So let's jump to writing a thesis statement. Essentially, the question that we are trying to answer was, what are the effects of alcohol on a fetus? This is the topic question, not the thesis statement, which I'm sure you are all aware of at this point. After research, you find out that alcohol abuse can have various effects on a fetus, birth defects, learning disabilities, social behavior problems. So your thesis statement could say, alcohol abuse during pregnancy can cause physical, emotional, and mental defects in a child. Okay. Ooh, final thesis statement. So, final thesis statement, alcohol abuse during pregnancy can cause physical, emotional, and mental defects in a child. Basically, what this thesis is doing is setting your paper up to have what we would call the 5-paragraph or 5-prong paper, okay? You'll have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs that are going to be outlined in your thesis, and a conclusion. So if I look at your thesis and you've written it correctly, I know that your first body paragraph will be physical, the second one will be emotional, and the third one will be mental. Okay? So my topic, alcohol abuse. My assertions, which also can be called my topic sentences. Okay? My assertion is what I am arguing in each of my body paragraphs. And they derive directly from or stem directly from the thesis statement, which is developed through the research process. Notice that your thesis and assertions are in the same order. Yes, please keep them neat and orderly. That is the basis of a 5-paragraph paper. Okay, let's look at another example. Don't mind the super fun animations. Okay, what was the Civil War? I think a 3rd grader could tell me that answer. What were the effects of the Civil War? You're getting somewhere. What were the effects of the Civil War on the Southern population? Okay. Again, it's still too general. You could narrow it down. What did African Americans have to battle after the Civil War? Okay, now that is something that would be interesting to think about. So let's look at another thesis statement. African Americans, though no longer enslaved, still battled discrimination, racism, and poverty. You can tell by the way that this is written that my first assertion is going to be about discrimination, my second assertion will be about racism, and my third assertion will be about poverty. And that these will fall in that order. Body paragraph 1, discrimination. Body paragraph 2, racism. Body paragraph 3, poverty. And if I'm following the 5-prong or 5-paragraph essay format, that I will have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs that are outlined in my thesis, and a conclusion. Okay, topic, how the aftermath of the Civil War affected African Americans. First assertion, discrimination. Second assertion, racism. Third assertion, poverty. Okay, that's all I want to talk to you about right now. But I will say this. If your paper doesn't have 5 paragraphs, will you get dinged? No. Sometimes there are things, and I've had a couple of conversations about with people about this, that you have to define or kind of set your reader up to follow your argument. For example, if you were writing a paper on feminism, okay, and you were trying to make an argument that was a feminist argument, you might want to have a paragraph at the beginning, right after the introduction, that defines feminism, that defines what particular kind of feminism or feminist argument you were trying to assert, okay? Because you could talk about first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave feminism. And if you have a source that all you're using is to define that topic, that's fine, okay? Maybe you want to immediately after that introduction have a counter argument and say, you know, people have said X, Y, Z, I will disprove them in such a way. And then after I've disproved this argument, I'm going to go into my argument with my A, B, and C assertions, okay? You do need to have 3 assertions, but if they don't all fit neatly into the 5-paragraph essay, will you be dinged? No, because sometimes you will have subtopics that fall under those categories, okay? But you do need to have a thesis that will outline your paper, will outline your argument, and will make sense that the reader can follow. Okay, if you have questions, let me know, but I just wanted to give you a heads up about this, about developing a thesis before you went ahead and finished up your research. Okay?